Hello, cult members, and welcome to the Pop Culture Cult. I'm Sean.
I'm Janice.
And this is our spoiler review of Blade Runner 2049. Spoiler.
If you haven't seen it,
I'm just saying, it's spoilers.
Off now.
You understand? All right. You've been warned. Okay. We did a non-spoiler review. I will tag it to the end of this video, or we'll put it up here. Maybe. I don't know. We'll see how it works. But if you have not seen the movie, please do not watch this because we're going to spoil the shit out of it.
Yes.
Because there's a lot of stuff that happened that we weren't able to talk about in the non-spoiler review that we do want to talk about. We went and saw it last night. We gave ourselves a chance to kind of digest what we saw because it was a lot. We also watched the final cut, the Blade Runner, the final cut last weekend. So we were up to date and refreshed and renewed from the story.
Yep.
This story itself is a mirror of the first one. It's Rory going to his dad and, asking to make me a real boy. Right? I mean, that's the story, right?
Yeah.
And this one is the father going and finding his child.
Oh, ultimately,
right.
I mean, I think the story changes.
Yeah, so it was the thing I kept kind of thinking about last night was during the movie I was like, and that's the end of Act 1. No, that's the end of Act 1. No, that's the end of Act 1. There was every time they had a big scene would happen, and I was like, okay, that's the end of Act 1. Here's the beginning of Act 2. And I was like, no, this is a continuation of Act 1.
Yeah.
This was a one-act play.
Yeah.
Storyline until you get to the last 20 minutes, and then it's like Act 2, Act 3, Act 5. It's like what? The whole
everything we talked about for the last 2 hours is now changed.
Right. We in our non-spoiler review, we talked about the performances and the cinematography, and all of that is amazing. And Denis Villeneuve is just, if he doesn't get Oscar nominations for this, I don't. I don't know.
People have said if this doesnst get nominated in various different areas, that they're just going to stop with the Oscars. They're out.
Right.
So
that was Chris Stuckman was talking about that last night.
Yeah.
We watched a couple of reviews after the movie to kind of see if our initial thoughts were in line with what we were actually thinking, and having other people talk about it. We came home and had a shot of tequila and just kind of decompressed from the movie. So the plot line itself, what did you think of this? Let's talk about. Okay, let's back up. Let's talk about Ryan Gosling's story arc.
Yeah. So, I mean, from the commercials, I thought he was just a Blade Runner like Harrison Ford.
Right.
And then you quickly understand, without them actually, I don't think they actually ever specifically said it, at least in the beginning.
Right.
But you quickly understand that he is actually a replicant.
Right.
So
they don't mess around with that. That's in the first 3 minutes of the movie.
Yeah. But again, they don't. Danny Batista says, how does it feel to kill your own kind? Right? And so you're like, oh, okay, he's not a person, he's a replicant. Which is funny, because nobody really knows whether Harrison Ford's character is a replicant or a human, and they don't answer that in this one. You still, I mean...
Even in the multiple cuts of the first one, they don't explain that.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about this on the way home. Harrison Ford's eyes, Decker's eyes, glowed in the first one, like all the other replicants, which means he's a replicant, except he fathered a baby.
Right. So that's
with Rachel. So,
that's the main story part, so the main story arc of this movie is not about Ryan Gosling. Actually, it's Ryan Gosling figuring out that Decker and Rachel had a baby. How does a replicant have a baby?
Right.
And that's the main story arc, and then all the stuff that's going on around it is them trying to find this baby.
Right.
Because this baby is the miracle child.
Right.
The unicorn.
And everybody's trying to find the baby for different reasons, right? So Jared Leto's character, Wallace.
Wallace.
And Love are trying to find the baby because he wants to he can't make enough replicants. He can't make replicants fast enough. So if they can procreate, then that just takes care of, that whole thing.
Right.
And Robin Wright Penn's character,
she's like the police
chief
or whatever,
yeah,
for Los Angeles.
She's trying to, and she's having Ryan Gosling's character go find the baby, because if they don't, it's like the end of their world as they know it. It
Right.
could, anarchy and cats and dogs living together. Ryan Gosling, while he starts to look for the baby because he's been told to, that's his job, that changes, because then halfway through the movie he starts to feel like he's the baby.
Right.
And so then he needs to get answers for himself. So everybody's got these different reasons for finding the baby.
Right. And the baby is hidden in plain sight, like essentially the whole time.
Yeah.
And the ability to tell this story arc without, to make you feel like it's this person, and then you're like, no, it's this person. No, it's this person, and really hiding it the entire movie.
Yeah.
But in the whole time having like holding the baby in front of you, saying,
Yeah.
"Here, this is who that is." That storytelling is just amazing. It's just so well done.
Yeah, because at one point I did think it was her, and then they made me change my mind.
Right.
And I was like, I thought it was her, and then
I was okay. I was really okay if it was Ryan Gosling.
yeah,
I totally would have been okay if he was the baby. If he was the unicorn.
Yeah.
And I would have been okay with that story arc. I actually, for a long time during the movie, thought that because he finds some records of baby DNA records of a boy and a girl with matching DNA.
right.
And there's a death certificate for the girl, but not for the boy.
Right.
And so for a while in the movie, I thought that Ryan Gosling's Kay character and Love were both
yeah.
were both the boy and the girl.
Yeah, and the girl didn't die.
And the
Yeah.
girl didn't die,
Yeah.
and he was hidden. And I thought that story arc would have been really cool.
Yeah.
Until he fucking kills her at the
Yeah.
in the ocean,
But
and
you
I'm like, you just killed your sister. What the hell? And then Ryan gets saved, and a bunch of replicants show up to kind of be there, like trying to talk him into joining their revolution, essentially.
Yeah, yeah.
And the lead lady, I cannot remember her name. She was a replicant, but she had her eye taken out, so you can't really prove that she actually is a replicant or
Right.
not. And she says her.
Right.
And then Ryan, Kay, kind of just like breaks down because he thought it was
Yeah.
him.
Yeah.
And she makes a comment of saying,
You thought it was you.
we all think it's us.
Yeah. Yeah.
We all think it's us.
because all the replicants, like in the first one, they all share memories, because they're the memories of in the first one it was Terrell's granddaughter or something.
Yeah.
And in this one it turns out to be the baby.
Right. So just the storytelling process and the arc and all that stuff, and being able to direct with misdirection and misdirection to direction, that's why we had to sit down and digest everything that happened, because the story is so big, and it's shot so big.
Yeah.
It's just, if you've watched the first one, and if you're watching this review and haven't seen the first one, I don't know what you're doing. But if you watch the first one, it's 1982, and it's just a grandiose
Yeah.
overstimulation of everything going on, because it's the future, right? So this one is very much the same way. So you can get lost, and I did get lost in the scope of the set, of the setting of the story.
I was trying to look at everything and pay attention to the story at the same time.
And there's a scene where they go from Los Angeles to the, what do they call it? The
waste quadrant or whatever
waste
of
quadrant
San
of San Diego. So they make San Diego the dump.
The dump. Funny.
Okay. But they go there, and Kay's car gets shot down. And so as the car's going through and they land and they're walking through these giant trash piles, I'm doing everything I can to watch to stay with the story and the scene, but looking at all the stuff in the background. Yeah. Because I know that there's all this stuff going on, and when they fly through the city, and I'm looking at all the advertising on the buildings and stuff like that.
And I really like that they didn't, Atari was a big deal in 1982, and it's not. Now I think they still make some games, maybe, but that's about it. But they kept it. They kept Atari, and Pan Am has gone out of business. Pan Am doesn't even exist, and they kept that.
Yeah.
And so you feel like, because the first one happens in what, 2019?
I think it's 2020. I think it's 2020.
Okay.
Yes, it's 2020 because somebody was posting a meme that says Blade Runner. The world of Blade Runner is supposed to happen in 3 years. We better get on it.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So, here that was kind of my point. So we're 3 years from the first one, and barring something super major happening, we're not anywhere near that. So it is not this world, obviously. It's it's the next world over. So I just liked that they kept that stuff and didn't go, oh, that company doesn't exist anymore, so we're gonna yank it.
Right. They kept it in
there.
They kept it. And they added Sony. They added a couple different things to the story, but I liked how they kept the continuity. We talked about this in the non-spoiler review that they pushed a lot of the technology and a lot of the stuff forward, but not so forward that it was inconceivable.
Right. And again, that's that same thing, right? Because it is 2017, and the I don't know what you want to call it, the screen capture, the video thing that Deckard uses in the first one is just, it's laughable now, right? We've advanced so far beyond that. And again, they could have done the same thing. They could have said, oh, well, we're completely past that, so let's blow way past. They didn't do that. There's a part where Ryan Gosling's character actually kind of uses that same technology, but in his car as he's flying over Las Vegas, and he's doing the same thing. He's like, 8, and it expands, and he's like left 2, and
That was a cool scene.
Yeah,
because he's sitting, and Las Vegas is a wasteland essentially, and they're just sitting there watching, the panning back and forth with the shots, and it's just buildings.
Yeah, but he's looking for something.
Stuff. Right.
But it's the same. It has the same feel, but it has advanced. It's not quite so slideshowy like it was in the first one with Deckard. It's smoother, but it's still the same thing. So you get the feeling that technology is the same. It's just advanced.
Right.
The 30 years or whatever.
So there's a scene that before we started this, we wanted to do this review a little bit different than we do our normal reviews, because there was a lot of stuff that happened that we wanted to talk about, and not necessarily about what we talked about in the last one, because we talked about the acting and all that stuff. So one of the scenes I actually wanted to talk about was the sex scene.
Yeah.
So Kay is a replicant. He lives in an apartment. His door says "fuck off, skin job." He gets harassed and catcalled the whole way and everything. And he goes in this apartment, and he has a hologram girlfriend.
Yeah.
By the name of Joy, and so that way he's not living alone, kind of thing.
Yeah.
But she's very interactive and very self-aware.
Yeah.
She knows she's a hologram, and she does care for him, but they do this really cool thing where she goes up to him and goes to touch him, but she can't.
Right.
And in the scene, she kind of fades in and out. She phases in and out of existence, where you can kind of see through her at times, and sometimes you can't, and stuff like that. And then he gets this thing where he could take her on walkabout with her.
Right.
So she's not just confined to the room, and so she's able to walk around and go wherever without having this hologram generator. So they go outside, and the rain goes through her and all of that stuff. So they make a point of showing that she can't touch him, but tries to.
Right, and vice versa.
Yeah. Because he actually does. He's a replicant who does care. He actually does have feelings, and we talked about in the other review how Ryan Gosling portraying a replicant and showing emotions without showing emotions was just so cool. And this was one of those scenes. Well, Kay figures out, or he thinks he figures out, that he is the baby in this, and so he goes back to talk to Joy and kind of figure out what I'm going to do next, because I am the baby and I'm hired to go find the baby, and I'm the freaking unicorn.
And people are going to kill me if they find out.
So Joy hires a prostitute that Kay had been talking to earlier, and she comes up to the room, and for lack of a better term, Joy phases into where the prostitute is.
She said, what was it called? Like, not merges, but because she said, hold still while I can't remember what she called it, though. It was like the phasing in process.
Yeah,
I don't remember.
The way that scene is shot is amazing. Because the two actresses, Mackenzie Davis and Aria de Armas, or
Anna.
Is it Ava?
No, I think it's Anna.
Anyways, the two of them are similar in size, but they don't look anything alike.
Yeah.
One's got red, like, stringy hair, and one's got long black hair. And so when they finally phase as to kind of one, so Joy can actually touch Kay and all that kind of stuff, the way she looks is a mix of the two of them.
Yeah.
And it phases back and forth between who is one and who is the other. And that... how do you do that? It was so cool.
Yeah. And you can tell, it's not like she was reading her mind, so they didn't... I think if they had made it meld in, would have maybe cheapened it.
Melded into her mind or whatever.
Well, because, she, like, one of them would move, the prostitute, I can't remember what her name was, but she would move, and Joy didn't know she was going to move, so she had to kind of move after the fact, so one hand would go and then the other one would go on top, and I appreciated that they kind of...
They made this, and that's one of the things that we were talking about, how well it is shot. To be able to do that scene with essentially three characters, but only really with three actors, but really only have two characters in the scene. It's just one of the really big examples, at least for me, of how well this movie is shot.
Yeah.
And how they were able to use the technology of the universe to make an emotional connection between those two characters.
Yeah.
And make you feel for Kay and make you feel for Joy.
Yeah.
And then that way later on, when Kay loses Joy, you feel for her.
Yeah.
You feel for the two of them. And then there's a scene later on when Kay finds out that he's not the unicorn, he's not the baby. And there's this giant advertisement for a Joy program.
Yeah.
And you like, he just stands there and stares at her like I don't know what my world is anymore. Like, there's my girlfriend. There's the one I loved, and she's in this, 50-foot tall version of her,
and she doesn't have any. I mean, it's a photo, right?
It's an advertisement.
Yeah, she doesn't have any of her memories.
Right.
All of her memories were in the little stick, and that's gone.
And so just that emotional connection you got from the sex scene or whatever, that emotional connection you get between the two of them, and then them taking away from everybody and then giving it back to him, and then like the story arc of Kay with all that, and how it's just just so cool. There's gonna be people who are gonna talk about a bunch of the other scenes, but that for me was one of the things that why I emotionally felt for Kay.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
The other thing too at the end of this movie is a lot of people are complaining about when Decker finally finds his daughter, and he walks into the room, puts a hand on the glass, and the movie ends.
Yeah.
There's no continuation. There's no dialogue. There's no, hi, sweetie. There's no her recognizing him. There's none of that.
No, and there shouldn't have been.
Right.
Because those are the same people that complained about them sticking, was it Deckard's? It's been a long time since we've seen the original. I've seen the director's cut and the final cut a bunch of times.
Right.
But I think in the original it was Deckard's voice that they put
the monologue
at the end.
Yeah.
And they even complained about Edward James Olmos just because it was a retelling of things that you already knew from the beginning.
Right.
But then you can't complain about that.
Right.
And then complain about this too.
I really think that not having a completion there with that story arc, which was the main story arc of the movie, was
there's not an
K is the catalyst for that story arc, but
there's not an obvious completion, but you should. It's going back to that. You don't need to tell me what I've already seen, right? You don't need to verbally tell me what I've already seen.
Right.
You understand that what's going to happen afterwards, that he's going to tell her, I'm your father, there'll be tears, I don't need to see that on the screen. I get it. Or maybe I want to fantasize that he doesn't tell her at all and he chickens out and leaves, or you can make up your own adventure, make up your own ending if that's what you want to do.
And that's kind of what the first one was, because Rachel and Deckard get on the elevator. Deckard picks up the unicorn. They get in the elevator and they still have to escape Los Angeles. They have to go hide. But you don't know. You don't know if they're getting chased. You don't know what's going to happen until 30 years later. You find out that they had a baby together. I don't know how.
Well, and there is a version where they do go kind of off-world to another place, whatever, because he lands in a meadow or something, and I think it's the director's cut. It's been a while since we've seen that one.
But I like the fact that they didn't throw it in your face. And that's and movies like this opens it up for conversations and telling. Allowing you as the audience member to choose your own adventure, and open this conversation. I'm waiting for a bunch of our friends to go see it. A bunch of our friends are gone this weekend, and we stayed home because money. But I'm waiting for them to come home and see it because they're big Blade Runner fans. Mm-hmm. I want them to see it so we can all sit down and talk about how the ending was.
Yes.
And I just thought that was really well done. One last thing.
What?
I want
to talk about some of the Easter eggs.
All right, talk about the Easter eggs. Go.
So there was a lot of small Easter eggs, right? And I'm sure that we have missed a bunch of them. Again, big movie, need to watch it multiple times to absorb everything. The very first thing I noticed is Kay walking into Danny Batista, I can't remember his character's names, little house, and he's got food cooking, right? And it's bubbling very loudly. And that is one of the scenes in the original Blade Runner where Pris puts her hand in the egg boil thing and
pulls it out.
And the boiling kind of goes in and out of that whole conversation between Pris and Rutger Hauer's character and the other guy. I can't remember. It's been a week and I can't remember their
Roy, Pris,
and
Sebastian. Sebastian, there you go.
Because it's an awkward. Roy has shown up unexpected to Sebastian, and so it's an awkward conversation, and so that boiling gets really loud in the middle of the conversation, and then it kind of dies back down, and they're talking, and then the boiling gets really loud again, and then dies down, and then they're talking, and then it gets really loud again, and she goes over and sticks her hand and pulls the egg out to prove, when Sebastian says, what can you guys do, and so she pulls it out. So I thought that was very it kind of immediately puts you back into the original Blade Runner with just that boiling sound. We talked about Atari and Pan Am, and they're, the car was the same. There's
a photo showing a woman. It's not Rachel, but there's a woman in front of a tree with a baby, and Decker's car is in the background.
Yeah.
That was a cool, like, kind of obvious connection point, but you wouldn't know unless you'd seen the first one.
Right.
Now, they don't. They kind of explain it later on, but as soon as the picture came up, I'm like, that's a Decker's car.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Oh yeah.
You know.
Rachel, right? Rachel comes back.
Oh yeah, I forgot. I wanted to talk about that.
And we. So I don't know if it's clear or not. IMDb lists the same actress.
I have my phone out with IMDb
as Rachel in the first one.
Right.
In this one. But we had thought we'd seen in the credits that it said Rachel lookalike.
We have Elvis lookalike, Marilyn lookalike, Liberace. Sinatra. Although the Sinatra scene is a hologram, but it's actually footage from something.
Yeah, from like a Sands. I don't know.
It says Sean Young as Rachel.
Yeah. Edward James Olmos makes an appearance as well. There was some talk about the fact that he doesn't use the city speak that he uses in the first one. Now he's in a retirement home. It was up to Edward James Olmos because he actually created the city speak in the first one.
Yes.
He came up with that language.
Yes.
It was a combination of a bunch of languages himself. And he chose not to use it as the older him in the retirement community or home. And I would like to, I don't know what his thoughts were behind that. I'm older. I don't need to talk like a gangster thug anymore.
Right,
I'm on the streets. I don't know.
Maybe. I mean, there's also a little bit of he was also using that speak as kind of code for him in the first one. That was like his code, and he doesn't need to do the code stuff anymore. He's freaking living in a retirement home, making an origami sheep.
Is it a sheep?
I think it's a sheep. We talked about it on the way home, and we thought it was a bear. He makes an origami thingy and puts it on the table at the end of the conversation that he has with Kay, and I think it's a sheep. Because the title of the book is Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep? So that would make sense to me.
So the big one, and nobody's talked about this yet.
Okay, before we go any further, there is somebody on IMDb. It's IMDb right there. Okay, and it's Lauren Pita, and her name is Performance Double, and she looks like Sean Young. She's not exactly like Sean Young, but she's close enough.
I don't know. I don't know. We'll have to wait for the Blu-ray and watch all this.
I'm sure somebody on the internet's already got it figured out. But
maybe.
Anyway, so go about the unicorn.
Okay. So in the end of at least the final cut, and again, it's been so long since I've seen the original, I don't remember if he does it in the first one. But in the end of the final cut, Edward James Olmos' character leaves a silver unicorn origami on the floor outside of Deckard's apartment when him and Rachel are fleeing, right? And he stops and he picks it up, and you hear the voiceover of Edward James Olmos doing his little speech again, whatever. So what is a unicorn?
It's a mythical creature.
It's a singular
impossible character.
Yeah, it's the Shelby GT 500 in Gone in 60 Seconds.
Impossible to capture, mythical creature.
And what is the replicant baby?
Right.
It's a unicorn.
It's a unicorn. It's gotta be. It's gotta be. It's
that makes no other sense. If you've seen Final Cut, there's a scene with the unicorn running through a forest.
Decker has a memory of a unicorn running through a forest.
Right. And it
there's
makes
no dialogue.
No sense.
Right. There's no dialogue.
They never reference it again until the very, very end when the origami unicorn is sitting on the floor.
Right. And now there's a baby made by at least one known replicant and one maybe replicant.
Or human replicant, baby.
Whatever. Anyways. And they spend the whole movie trying to track down and chase and find this baby. The baby's the unicorn.
Yep.
Which means
30 years later they answered the question.
Right. Gaff, who's Edward James Olmos' character, he knew.
Yeah.
So he knew. Or did he?
And Deckard knew because he had a memory of a unicorn.
And they actually addressed that. There's a scene between him and Jared Leto where Jared Leto's character of Wallace says, did you instantly fall in love with Rachel because that was who you are? Or were you programmed to fall in love with Rachel as soon as you saw her?
Yep.
It was in like making you question that relationship, making you question, was it just because of who he was and he fell in love with somebody, or was he programmed to do it? And
right, because did Tyrell make Rachel to have a baby?
And Deckard doesn't know he's a replicant the whole time?
Right.
So, yeah, so there's so many more questions. So many more questions. The other thing that I wanted to talk about at the end was the idea of it is not a closed loop. There could be a sequel.
Right.
There could be. I won't say sequel. There'll be continuation of the story.
Right. Because there is now a revolution. Right. They
Right.
found the baby, and there's this whole group of underground replicants who are ready to revolt.
They Kay's character gets very much hurt at the end. I'm not going to say mortally hurt because you don't see him die. You see him sit down on the steps and he kind of lays down and he watches the snow, but you don't see him die. Now, there could be an argument of you see him stop breathing, but
I don't know that you do.
I don't know if you do or
I didn't
whatever.
pay enough attention to see him stop breathing.
And the last scene with Deckard going in and seeing his daughter, there's the whole. I think this is like 4 minutes of the movie. There's no dialogue, right?
And she's standing. She's making snow. Why is she making snow?
Why is she making snow? Right. And you've got all these replicants who have a leader, and they have the child of at least the replicant. The replicant child, right? So the revolution is set. So it's all set up to do the revolution of the replicants.
Yeah.
On Earth, but it's not obviously set up for a sequel, so or continuation of the story or whatever they end up doing.
And I don't know. Yeah, I don't know that sequel because
this is a sequel.
There are no because there's Edward James Olmos and there's Harrison Ford from the first movie. So Rachel sort of to kind of tie it all together. Whereas other than Harrison Ford, and I mean they could bring Edward James Olmos in again from the retirement home. I'm not really sure what the point of that would be, but everybody else is probably dead. I mean, if Ryan Gosling, if Joe is dead, so he's gone. Joy's gone. Love's gone. Captain.
Joy's not gone because she was a program.
But all her memories are gone.
Memories of her with Kay are gone.
Yeah.
She's the actor could come back, maybe not as that particular Joy.
Oh,
right.
Yeah. If you needed to, I don't know. But there's nothing other than Harrison Ford. There's nothing that's going to tie those two movies together except for it's in the same place.
Wallace is still alive.
True. Yeah.
And he's kind of he's one version of the replicant army, and then there's the older lady who had the eye removed, who's kind of the leader of the other group. So there's two replicant armies that I think are going to probably have a conflict with each other before they actually get together to find rights for essentially get their own place in the world with the humans.
Yeah.
Outside of being told that they're skin jobs.
Right.
So, what is your score?
I struggled with this one a little bit, but I think I've settled on a 9.
9. We talked about in the other review that I don't know if I'm ever going to give a 10.
Yeah.
I would like to, but I just this might be the closest to a 10 I would actually give.
Yeah, I mean, this and Dunkirk, I don't know how I'm going to pick a number one.
Yeah.
And we still have movies to go.
Yeah, we still have, and, Last Jedi's coming, Justice League is coming, and then we've got, we still haven't seen American Made. We haven't seen, what was the hell? There's a whole bunch of movies coming out. All the Oscar stuff starting to come now too.
Yeah.
So, but
Murder on the Orient Express.
That was what I was thinking of. So, but overall, this is probably the closest I'm going to get to a 10, with Dunkirk this year. Just an amazing, amazing movie. Go see it. We saw it in a Dolby Theater. The seats rumbled. The sound was amazing. The screen is amazing. It added to the experience. It's not a 3D movie, so you don't.
The only thing I wish is after I saw it, I was like, oh, we should have seen it in IMAX, because it would have been worth paying the $14 a person or whatever to go see it in IMAX. It would have been probably sensory overload, but now that
we've seen it, and we can kind of dissect what we're supposed to be looking at and stuff like that, might be a little bit better to see it this time around.
Yeah,
I
don't know.
But it's definitely worth the watch. Definitely worth the watch in the theater. You don't necessarily have to watch the first one to watch this one and enjoy it.
Nope, but you'll just get the Easter eggs.
You'll get the Easter eggs, and you'll get a little bit of the plot points a little bit faster than, let's say, if you hadn't seen it. I also, Stuckman said something, Chris Stuckman on YouTube last night said, there are going to be people who saw the first one and loved the first one are going to see this one and love this one.
Right.
And there are going to be people who saw the first one, saw it once, didn't get it, or hated it, and are going to watch this one, they're not going to get it. This is a multiple watch movie. This is a multiple sit down and dissect it kind of movie. It's not a sit down popcorn, turn your brain off for 2 hours kind of movie.
But it's definitely easier to watch than the first one. I saw the first one when it first came out in the movie theater, and I liked it visually, but I didn't get it. And now, watching it a bunch of times, I do get it, and I like it visually and all of that. And this one I think is easier for a one-time digest. It's got a beginning, a middle, and an end.
Yes.
It's not quite so esoteric. So I think it's an easier watch.
It's probably an easier watch for a more in-tuned movie-going person. If you are a movie person who goes to movies every 2 months, you're going to have a hard time with this movie.
I think it's other way around.
I think you are, because the pacing is so slow at times. It slows way down on purpose. They have to take these pauses and tell this story for a slowdown. And I think people are just going to get bored in those parts because they don't know. They don't know. But
I don't know.
That's my thoughts. That's her thoughts. That's why this movie's awesome, because we can have different thoughts and still sleep with each other at night.
Over there.
Stop touching me. It's hot. Because we live in the desert. So what do you guys think? Please like this video, and please leave us a comment on your review, your thoughts on Blade Runner 2049. We went over a lot of stuff, and there's probably another 2 hours worth of stuff that we could have sat down and talk about. So please interact with us. Tell us what you thought of this movie, and tell us is Decker a replicant? Is the baby all that stuff? Is the baby unicorn? Please also subscribe to the YouTube channel. We're trying to build a fan base, and we're trying to get our name out there. So please share it with all of your friends. You could get us on Facebook too. We're the PopCultureCult. We're PopCultureCult 1 on Instagram. We try really hard to post as much as we can on Instagram, guys. And we're at Pop_Cult1 on Twitter. You can also get us on the Stardust app at the PopCultureCult. It's free on all your smartphones. Download it, and you could do 30-second reactions to everything you're watching, like we did 3 seconds after we got out of. I might have been cussing like, "Oh, this is amazing!" And so, please like and subscribe to all of our pages, all of our social network gin joints, as the guys at Late to the Party say. And now it's college football time. And until next time, good morning now.